Merry belated Christmas, everyone, for the Christmas. The audio is clearly working. So, we're going to be going into what happens when your life breaks the plan. Okay, this is like real world experience right now. I'm literally coming to you guys from my family's house in Long Island, traveling up to New York for the holidays, traveling with the whole crew, the whole family, all four kids, fiance, visiting family. And throughout this process, I've been sick or I've been like fighting off kind of congestion and not feeling well. My daughters were sick prior to this. And my daughter literally the day of was in urgent care on Christmas Day. We're debating on if we're even going to fly out and all the things that go along with that. So we're going to basically go over some strategies and approaches when life just doesn't go according to plan. Whether you're traveling, whether it's because you're sick, how you're going to handle workouts, how you can handle your habits, and some data to back this. If you guys have seen my stuff, hopefully you have, you know I love me some data. We're going to look at peer-reviewed journals and insight and meta-analysis to justify or explain what I'm saying. And then at the end and throughout this, I'll be going over products that I personally use, as well as things that I find helpful and that you may want to look at that can support you on this. But ultimately, the big takeaway is you don't need to spend a dollar. We're just going to go over tips and tricks on how to handle these types of situations. Plus, as a bonus, if you're watching live or the replay or you're watching up chopped up content from this, the first person to comment on any of the live streams, videos, and all that will get a $50 LOF gift card that you can redeem with taking a screenshot of your comment and sending it to my email, lifeofafighter@gmail.com. Also on the podcast side, if you guys are listening to the audio and there's no comment, if you're the first person to leave a review after this podcast comes out, an honest review of what you think about the podcast, screenshot it, we'll send you a gift card as well and send it to us. So with that being said, let's dive into it. Again, when life breaks the plan, whether you're traveling, whether you're home, because of weather, I'll also be great thing I love about New York, it's actually been really nice. It snowed here. So I'm looking outside behind me and in front of me. We got about, I think, 6 to 10 inches worth of snow. So throughout all this process, we're also dealing with snow, change of plans, and how we're adapting to it. Now, I also had this whole plan of how I was going to work out, how I was going to keep up my training routine. That ultimately did not necessarily happen according to plan. I'm going to share again the strategies around that, amongst other aspects to how do we maintain our goals and also ultimately avoid burnout in this process. So before I go into that, I'm actually going to take one of I pack supplement bags. These are just helpful little tips and tricks. Good morning. Good morning. I see you on YouTube. Hey, Lala, what's up? Thanks for the comment. So I have a combination of these like honey drops and also just elderberry kind of suckers and lozenges. I found these really helpful for where my throat's at, which is being congested and sore throat and all that fun stuff. So I'm actually going to throw this down so I have some support since I'm going to be doing a lot of talking for the next hour. Now, we just started the live stream maybe 3 minutes ago, so we got perfect timing. And first, so take a screenshot of that comment, send it to my email, you'll get your $50 gift card. So we got one on YouTube, but again, on all the other platforms, if you're the first person to comment, you're in on it. Now, with that being said, got my lozenge in. Having certain things I find to be helpful, whether you're actually bringing it with you on the flight, if you're traveling, driving, whatever, or you're getting it at your destination, or just having some of these baseline things. So I'm fortunate I was able to adjust my schedule. I was able to ultimately not have to work. I'm taking a vacation, right? So the good thing about that is I'm not doing the same volume of calls. Otherwise, I'd have to cancel a whole bunch of calls, reschedule a whole bunch of things, but I preemptively did that since I'm on vacation. The one thing I did want to keep was this live stream in office hours to share some value with you guys, but that's hopefully going to be the most important. Now, the first point we're going to look at is consistency versus intensity, okay? And obviously, you probably tell already what I'm going to say. Consistency is going to be the king over intensity, especially when life is disrupted, whether we're sick or our travel plans change. Having that consistent deposit. There's a couple things I'm going to share with you. From a peer-reviewed journal on PubMed, what the findings took away was it was more impactful from a habit development or even a routine development to keep, oh, you think this is pre-recorded? I got you. How about this? Give me something, I got you. It's not pre-recorded, I promise. But now I just get excited, so I'm checking that. So the point is, a PubMed study found that inconsistency was more valuable to do 2 to 5 minute deposits of a habit. Maybe it was working out, maybe it was meal prep, maybe it was meditation, prayer, journaling, whatever the thing is, your morning routine versus doing it once a week for 2 hours. So, for the fitness example and the working out, it is actually more beneficial in rewiring your brain for the habit of exercise to move for 2 to 5 minutes 5 days a week versus for 2 hours one day, which I find is a fascinating kind of principle because it kind of goes against, at least to me, it was counterintuitive to the principle I've heard with 10,000 hours to mastery, right? In the Outliers book and other sources, where the more time you put in, the more of a mastery you're going to have on said thing. But that is not necessarily the case for wiring our brain for a new habit. That's the important piece. So again, consistency is going to be king over intensity. And a larger review in sports medicine in an overall meta-analysis found that maintaining reduced training volume preserves more strength and cardiovascular adaptation once you've hit a certain level, and you don't need to maintain the same intensity, even when intensity and frequency drops off for a period of time, anywhere from 1 to 3 weeks or beyond. So what that basically means is research shows you don't lose progress as fast as you probably think. Even when your training intensity and volume is reduced, a minimal amount of training will preserve your adaptation for a week. So for example, for this week, since I'm not working out at the same intensity, I'm really not really working out. I brought my bands, I have my resistance bands with me, and I haven't even really used them beyond some mobility and some shadow boxing. I haven't done the actual workouts I planned on doing, which maybe I still will as I progressively feel better. But right now, I haven't. The point is just being able to have put in the work and laid the foundation. I'm not going to lose my strength gains as fast. Now, the cardiovascular, that's the thing that tends to go first. I'm actually walking where I can with the kids, being able to do some shadow boxing, some jiu-jitsu oriented things, lower intensity, zone one, zone two. But that's where I'm putting my energy. And that's going to feed enough of a stimuli to preserve not only muscle, but my cardiovascular training and adaptation. Now, for the strength side, being able to do like 10 push ups in the morning, being able to do some baseline resistance training is a little different for everyone, but you can reduce your overall volume by 1/3. So if you're training 6 days a week, you only need to train twice a week. If you're doing 10 sets in a workout, you only need to do maybe 3 to 4 sets in a workout to maintain the stimuli or to provide the right stimuli to maintain your strength and adaptation. Even if you take a week or 2 weeks off because you're sick or traveling or an emergency happens, you can get it back even faster once you've laid that foundation. So that's where, again, the consistency component of it is going to be king over the intensity in short windows. Now, here's another interesting point we're going to go to. It's not only the training, now we're going to talk about sleep and how impactful. If you had to pick one versus the other, people always ask me, like, oh, well, should I like lose sleep to wake up to build my routine there? Really, sleep loss is going to hit harder than any missed workout in general. And I've talked about this in past data points, so I'll keep referencing certain data. Less than 6 hours of sleep per night is associated with a 30% higher risk of, again, metabolic dysfunction, obesity. We've talked about this. But ultimately, another thing that happens when we're losing sleep is it's impacting our insulin sensitivity. What that means is we're not as insulin sensitive. You're going to be more than likely eating more carbs. It's going to impact your body composition, as well as your body's producing more ghrelin, which is a hunger cue and a hunger hormone that's going to make you feel hungry, more likely make you want to eat more carbs, crave more caffeine, things like that, which cheers, I got my coffee. And I'll talk about how I'm leveraging that because we're going to talk about protein intake as well. But sleep is the number one thing I would say for, like, honestly, I slept till, I'm being real with you guys, I slept till 10 o'clock or almost 10 o'clock. I also had a hard time going to sleep. So that's where I was using some magnesium, and we're going to get into that. Another part of my supplements is I have some magnesium packets and powders that have, again, they're individual packets. I love individual packets when traveling for that reason. So whether you want to use like capsules, powders, whatever makes sense, gummies, I personally like the powders. I mix with my water. I drink it. It helps me fall asleep, especially when I recognize I haven't been able to get a good night's sleep, whether it's because congestion, whether it's because of discomfort, injuries. I have a rotator cuff injury, makes it hard sometimes to sleep on that side. Being able to have support with magnesium. Then if I want to take it a step further, I also have some magnesium gummies along with melatonin. And melatonin is not what I like to use on a frequent basis, but in these situations, again, for sleep, just even 1 week of that sleep deprivation is going to be impactful for our insulin sensitivity, for our muscular development, for our hunger cues. So I cut that off in the past. I'm also really fortunate we have family here to tag in and support, like, I watch the kids. That Carrie's also tagging in and out. Like, I stayed up I woke up early, like 6 with the kids to let her sleep in even for an hour, and then we trade off. So finding strategies where you can, especially as a parent. Point of all of that is sleep is going to be a massive component. Even missing sleep for a few nights impacts hormones and metabolic function more than missing a single workout. So if you had to pick, again, I'm not telling you what to do, but if I had to pick, I pick sleep over waking up for a workout. I pick sleep over staying up later for a workout. In these moments of feeling sick, atypical scenarios. Now, habits for life, you want to be able to find the balance. You're going to need to work out at some point to provide stimulatory muscles. But the first foundation is getting adequate sleep. That's the thing that's a priority over everything else. Now, with all this, I've kind of been alluding to like being sick, illness, immune compromise, just making up words here, having an immune compromised state and not being able to perform. So being mindful of that is where I honestly really struggle with allowing myself to rest. Because I have a story, especially from being a fighter for over a decade and just in general an athlete for decades. The story I've told myself and been told by coaches and kind of consume is we need to suck it up. We need to work hard. We need to make sacrifice, which is true. But it's learning and knowing when it's time to sacrifice, when it's time to rest and literally rest, or you're just kind of being tired, or you're just kind of trying to give in when things get hard, which it's finding that fine line for all of us. So what I would do is if I would entertain the story of mine, I would just take time off. So I've learned to just push through everything so that doesn't happen. Now that I'm retired, I don't need to. And that's an important piece. So when it comes to illness and how it impacts everything, moderate exercise supports immune function. However, intense or prolonged training during illness can suppress immunity and immune function and increase or lengthen the recovery time that's going to take to be able to heal. So, energy deficit plus illness, being sick acutely or chronically, will increase your cortisol response and overall muscle breakdown. That's another layer to it. So, kind of the TLDR version is when you're sick, your body is already under stress, your immune system is already compromised. Pushing intensity of your workouts will only slow things down. Now, that doesn't mean don't walk, don't focus on mobility. Something Carrie and I talk about quite a bit. I talk about with our medical director, Dr. Eric, and a variety of teams. Again, this isn't medical advice for you. It's just what I do. Not feeling good, I go for walks. I work on stretching every day. I'll do some body weight movements, like 10 push-ups here, a couple push-ups there, maybe a couple pull-ups, doing some band pull-up parts. I still use the bands where I can. And that's why I reduced the load. And even before I left for this trip, I did a workout. You guys can go back and check out if you want to. And it was 2, 3 sets, being able to just provide enough stimuli to make my body feel good and not overwhelmed. And progressively each day, I've been like feeling better, feeling better. The biggest thing is my throat. Just from the talking I do as a coach, that's damaging. And then when I get back, I see my family. I'm gonna be real with you guys. We love talking, so that's always a temptation that I get to manage. And then even emotions can get charged, and you can have like I don't know if you guys can tell. I like talking with my hands. I'm Italian and German from my background, so with that size of my family, we can tend to like have very emotionally charged conversations, which leads to using your voice, which can tax it. So the point being, managing our wellness and not pushing through high intensity training. So I didn't do my normal resistance training. I didn't go to spar. I have many being from Long Island, I have a lot of jujitsu gyms, boxing gyms. I even have coaches I can hit up to train. I've intentionally not done that. And part of it's also because I just don't have the time to see everyone. But the other part is I know that the intensity training that we would do is not going to be good for my system right now. If anything, it's going to hurt me and lengthen my recovery time and increase my chances of injury. It's not worth the trade from a muscular standpoint. Okay. But I just wanted to like again recap that not only is exercise like a low to moderate level intensity exercise, okay. It's when you go to the other side of it, that's where it can be down. But also talk to your doctor, talk to your physician. You may just need to stay in bed and rest for a couple days and not do anything. But what I've seen effective for myself and for others, even when they talk to their doctor, is getting a little bit of blood flow, a little bit of movement, even if it's just some jumping jacks or some like high knees, even sitting, marching in place. I shadow box every day. I do jujitsu, solo drills every day just to move blood flow, to do some basic yoga stretches that I do on a daily basis. That tends to help from my standpoint, and I see it improves my recovery time. Whereas if I just stay in bed, also my body feels horrible. My mind doesn't feel great either. So there's a combination of mental health along with the physical health. So, speaking of mental health, we're going to talk about stress and travel and how that can be a hormone disruptor. Okay, and again, I'm not an endocrinologist, I'm not a specialist in this. I'm just going to reference some data points, and this is also something I've learned from working with our medical director for the company we brought on, Dr. Eric. And we'll dive into some different things around that in general and how you can take action. But the biggest thing I want to add is we flew from Asheville to New York. It was actually pretty smooth on Christmas evening. After we were able to open up gifts and all that, it was pretty smooth. It wasn't as packed as I thought. Arriving into Newark, it was slammed, which doesn't surprise me. We hit traffic. It's New York. It's New Jersey. It's nothing surprising. Wasn't too bad, but just in general, travel stress and circadian rhythm disruption will elevate and can elevate, again, cortisol, which is stress hormone, and impair glucose regulation, which is a fancy way of saying your body's ability to handle carbs and manage its energy can be impacted when you're traveling. Even just getting in a plane or driving for a prolonged periods of time is stressful on the body, even if you're used to it. It's not a normal thing for our body to get into a giant metal tank and go 60 plus miles an hour, 100 plus miles an hour. It's an interesting stress response to our system. So planning for that and anticipating it. So stress from travel alone can disrupt our hormones. Even if you're still doing workouts, you're still sleeping, still doing all the normal stuff. Just the stimuli of travel can interrupt and impact our hormones. Now, nothing necessarily you want to have to do with that. It's just important to be mindful because again, that can challenge your immune system. So doing things, in my opinion, that are friendly for you, like naturally let your body regulate itself. Your body's really good at regulating itself, but lean into that by saying, okay, I'm going to hydrate. I personally, lately, I've been giving into like a guilty pleasure. I like Diet Snapple. You guys can judge me if you want to. Honestly, it's not the healthiest thing, but it's hydration. And I would offer, and we can get into a debate if you guys want to about this, the benefits of hydration from whatever it is I'm drinking outweigh the acute impact of a very small exposure to different types of sweeteners and ingredients that are in like a Diet Snapple. Now, would I drink Diet Snapple every single day for a long? No, I don't drink it on a daily basis for a variety of reasons. Usually it's water, different types of seltzer, naturally flavored things. But in an acute sense where like, especially I'm not really wanting to drink that much, I have like a psychological positive association to Diet Snapple. So it's easy for me to drink 64 ounces of this a day, plus having a couple of bottles of water. I'm at a gallon of water easily. And then I drink my coffee with my protein shake is another one. We're going to get into the benefits of protein. But again, looking at some of the foundational habits when you're even sick and how to steer into that. Hydrating, being able to, again, go back to sleep. Sleep's going to help as a hormone regulator. Being able to have certain types of nutritional intake. For example, today's Sunday, I'm meeting up with my family. We're going to go get Italian food. And of course, I'm going to enjoy New York Italian food. So I'm going to get some maybe fried things, some bread that I normally don't have, and all that types of stuff. But at the core, I'm going to be eating lots of vegetables. I'm going to be taking, I also have some other supplements, which I'm going to take right now. Speaking of which, I have a mushroom gummy supplement and an immune gummy supplement. And again, here's the thing. When it comes to supplements, you don't need them. They're a supplement. They're an add-on. You want to get it from your nutrition. Well, I know today specifically, I'm not going to be eating just salads and veggies and soup. I'm going to be having pasta, chicken parm, tortellinis, things like that that are just like not going to be as nutritionally oriented. Now, thankfully, my mom, my brother, we have a lot of homemade food. We've made like a lot of homemade food with veggies and good quality ingredients most of the days. But today we're going out. So the point of me saying all that is even when you are travel, be mindful of the things you control. I love that. That's hilarious. And that's a great username too, by the way. I see you chicks. No, no, but thank you. In general, though, being able to focus on the things that we can control and the lever points, hydration, good quality sleep, managing your exposure to stress and stimuli in that capacity. And also one of the things I find helpful is like keeping up with certain routines. Like I have a journal I keep and travel with. I have my planner I keep and travel with, and I adjust my things. And I find it helpful even to manage stress when stress is happening from travel in general, being able to do reflection. So like today's prompt, for example, was what bad assumptions can I cast out? So let's say, for example, I'll share, this is a really good opportunity that I personally find helpful is I have an assumption that when I'm not exercising, I'm being lazy or my body's atrophying. And this is, I logically know this isn't true. This is what I study. However, Thank you for the share. I appreciate it. And the like, I see you, chicks. And being able to then challenge that and saying, "Hey, is it true that I'm like shrinking in front of your eyes? Like I'm losing all my muscle, I'm losing all my strength, I'm losing all my progress? Or can I challenge that and cast that out?" That's like what I think is a fun prompt and an intention, even from the journaling. So I appreciate the journals. I also have a great app I use, Abide. That's again a faith-based Christian app, especially with being Christmas and stuff. Being able to use church and the Bible and different quotes and reflection and conversations, I find that helpful for stress as well. So the point of saying all this is when we're traveling, when we're mindful of our hormones, focus on things we control. Exercise where you can, what feels appropriate. If you don't know, get a coach. If you don't know, there's tons of resources. You know, nowadays we actually was able to. I just signed a contract with Aetna, so now we're able to take Aetna insurance for our health coaching. If you guys are interested, and you ask what site is that, you can go to, and this is just. I'm actually using the journal. Oh, Abide. You might be talking about the Abide app. Well, also, I'm talking about lifestyleoffitness.com. That's the website you can go to. It's my company. You can fill out free form, get free access to our programs, and also we'll be able to see if you're a good fit. If we take your insurance, you can work with us absolutely for zero out of pocket cost. And then the cool thing is, we can build systems around this. We have tons of free resources where you don't have to spend any of your own money now. That's the cool thing with insurance. Now, if you don't want to deal with insurance, we have great programs you can invest into. We have all these different things. But again, I like to offer things you don't have to spend $1 with that can be action. For example, just go walking for 15 to 20 minutes. That's a baseline you can do as long as you don't have any injuries. Being able to do yoga for 2 to 5 minutes. There's tons of videos online. There's tons of videos even I've put out with my fiance where it's yoga, no impact movement, resistance training, a variety of things that can complement in this. And I can even expand upon that if you guys would find that valuable, and I can make some follow-up videos and live. We've done live streaming workouts even this past week. I was like, hey, these are low impact movements you can do that'll be good during this time. So that's again, the takeaway is traveling is going to disrupt your hormones, even if you're still doing your workouts. So focus on your food, focus on your sleep, focus on your stress, hydrate, and do all the things that you can where it feels appropriate. Now, here's the what I would say probably one of the easiest ones, in my opinion, at least for me, is protein intake will protect your muscles during downtime, during off weeks, when you're sick, when you're recovering, traveling, all of that. So I'm going to share some data points with you. Protein intake around 1.6 grams per kilogram per day or higher. So basically, fancy way is if you take your body weight, you do about 80% of your body weight, even 80% of your lean body mass, or if you want to get super simple, 1 gram for every pound of body weight. I'm 200 pounds, probably 205 now with travel and everything, maybe 207. I'd have 200 to 205 grams of protein on a daily basis. This is going to reduce significantly the muscle loss during a period where I may not be training or sick, or reduce my overall training load. If I may not lose any muscle whatsoever. So having that adequate protein intake improves also not only your muscle retention, but your recovery, your immune resilience, especially with stress exposure, and overall function, which is why no matter where I go, I find where I can get either Premier Protein, Pure Protein, these types of protein shakes. And I also leverage like bars. I'm not as much of a fan of all bars because they can be a little bit sugary. But this one, for example, has 2 grams of sugar, gram of fiber, 20 grams of protein, 200 calories. It's a good option. My mom actually has these. I recommend this to her from Amazon. And whether you order from wherever you want to get them from ahead of time and travel with it, or you find locally, sometimes I work with clients on, and we have programs specifically for this. So we help people, hey, if you're traveling somewhere, let's look around the areas, whether it's restaurants, stores, shops, things you can have deliveries sent to. Set you up for success. Baselines for me is having protein, having bars, having yogurts, having things like that that can help get protein in. And again, a simple one is for every gram of body weight, have a gram of protein. Honestly, that's really overdoing it. You don't even need that much, but it's just an easy mathematical breakdown. And if you want help, again, we have apps and programs and technology in our internal systems in the LOF ecosystem that supports you doing this absolutely for free. And if you want to work with our coaching team to support in that, we now take insurance, whether it's Aetna, whether it's Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Healthcare. We've got all 3 approvals now. And we're working on pretty much every main insurance that goes in between. So basically, to recap, if training drops, protein becomes even more important in its muscle insurance. Okay. In the likelihood you're going to want to protect your muscle preservation, or maintain muscle preservation, protein's going to help support that. Okay, provide very minimal stimuli, get your protein intake in. And the other cool thing with protein is it's really hard for your body. It can turn it into energy and store it as fat, but it's a really costly, expensive process that it really won't want to do. It can happen if you're like doing a variety of things, and I won't get into right now, but it doesn't really want to take protein and store it as body fat. It's not the move. Okay. It's a very costly process. It's not very efficient. And your body's more than likely not going to do it. If you want to help your body regulate your insulin, your sugar, feel full, make sure you're protecting your muscle, build your immune system and your resiliency, there's really not a lot of downside. Now, the thing I will say is if you have kidney issues or liver issues, or if you have organ problems, or if you're maybe taking certain type of medication, talk to your doctor. And even our medical director is a great example. We'll send people to them to make sure what we're doing fits our program and everyone's health. But again, there's very minimal downside overall. But again, I can't speak to your exact scenario. So I just want to be mindful of that. And we're going to bring it home with a couple more points here, two more. Light movement reduces stress and preserves the habit. So kind of alluding to before, moderate intensity will help from immune system. Light movement as well. And I'll double down on this. I kind of mentioned it before, but light activity like walking or mobility or yoga, specific types of yoga that's not super intense, reduces cortisol and improves mood because of serotonin, as well as even without formal exercise, the movement will have an impact on a psychological and physiological level, as well as habit continuity, meaning you're maintaining the habit, matters more than the volume and the length of time. So, being able to, again, I went back to 2 to 5 minutes on a 3 to 5 time basis is more impactful than doing it for 2 hours once per week. Yeah, what is something that's, I mean, and so here's a great point. That's a great question, actually. I appreciate it. So, what is something that takes you from your house to your work without moving? Yeah. And you can totally use travel and technology, but here's the thing. I would invite two perspectives. I don't know what you're implying or insinuating with that, but I think the important piece is why not move? Why would you want to go somewhere without moving? Like walking, taking a bike, use those things where you can. That's what's beautiful about major cities like New York, for example, when weather permits. You can walk. You can now, again, I'm going to go to dinner. I'm not going to walk all the way from where I'm in Long Island to Brooklyn for our dinner. I'm going to take a car. But when I get there, I'm also going to walk around. And before I go, I'm going to walk and play with my kids and do a little bit of movement. I'm going to make sure I got a good night's sleep. I'm going to hydrate. There's things that we can and cannot control to a certain degree or not necessarily leverage as much. So it's knowing how to leverage them. So again, low intensity movement, even after you have food, like for example, we're going to go eat. Instead of going right in the car, we're going to walk a little bit, get some movement, be able to play, have a dance party with the kids. This is going to reduce stress. It's going to preserve the habit and associate that to the mind, as well as be able to have like physiological and psychological benefits. So light movement keeps the habit alive. And that's ultimately the win here, especially when life gets messy, when things break down. Also, I would invite, there's a favorite quote I have when I went through this emotional intelligence course. Every breakdown is leading through to a breakthrough. So if my health, I'm like having a little bit of breakdown, right? Like my immune system's breaking down. It's just going to get stronger from this. And if my habits are preserved, and even if they break down, I'm going to find a way to adapt them and preserve them and make them stronger. So I think that's a really important piece is being able to figure out how do I preserve this and make it last even longer and come out at the other side of it as an improved version. And lastly, self-monitoring our adherence improves over time. And reiterate on word that as we self-monitor, it will improve our habit and adherence, even when our plan isn't kind of falling out as we desired. So, for example, ironically, actually, my watch died. I didn't pack. I have a smartwatch. I have a couple smartwatches, but the one I personally like lately is the Amazfit T-Rex, right? It's one I've been gifted from a brand. I also have the Apple Watch and a couple other ones as well. They're like knockoffs, and different brands will send me different stuff. Point is, I love wearing a wearable and tracking data, whether it's steps. My goal is always 5,000 steps a day. Even when I'm sick, I can just walk around the house, walk up and down stairs, whatever. Being able to track my sleep. So I know not only the length and quality of my sleep, and again, it's not perfect. It just gives an idea. I can also check my resting heart rate. So I knew my resting heart rate. Here's what's ironic. On average, it's about 47 beats per minute. The other night, I took my magnesium. I went to bed early. I didn't eat as Normally, as I would eat when I'm doing higher training, my heart rate dropped to 43. So I'm like, oh, my body's now being able to recover and it's not focusing its energy on building muscle and doing those other things. I can see it in the resting data, which is cool. But ultimately, even if you don't have all that stuff, if you have a smartphone, for example, taking pictures of your food impacted people's caloric intake by 20%, even if they didn't do anything with it. But self monitoring in general improves health behavior adherence by 30 to 40%, found the American Journal of Preventive Medicine, which is a crazy data point. So, whether it's you want to write it in a journal, you want to write it down that way, old school, like slept from 10 to 7, or I walked for 20 minutes, or whatever the thing is, you're using measurables, data. Our app, even the LOF app, has all this. We track behavior, we track adherence in there, we track percentages. The goal is always 80% adherence. So if you can increase your adherence by 30 to 40%, that's massive. If I gave you a pill, and I said, hey, if you take this pill every day, you'll be 30 to 40% more likely to do the things that you want to do. You would, of course, take that pill. So paying attention and measuring it is really impactful. And a lot of the stuff you'll hear me talk about time and time again, but I want to show you in all the ways it's impactful and versatile and shows up. And that's why we coach all these core beliefs. That's why even in our 28-day reset book and the one we're repurposing now into our 100-day comeback book series coaches these pieces because we know they work. It's studied time and time again across the board with data. So ultimately, to sum all of it up, the science is very clear that when life breaks down the plan, your job isn't to push harder, which is what I used to do a lot and still get tempted to. It's to basically preserve your foundational habits to protect sleep, protein intake, your stress, and your overall habits. So again, to recap that, when life breaks down the plan, whether because of travel, being sick, you're going through some crazy acute situations. Let's say you're going through a divorce, you're going through losing a loved one, whatever the thing is, maybe weather like snow and tornadoes, hurricanes, whatever's going on, your goal is to, as much as you can, protect sleep, your protein intake, your stress management, and your habit continuity. So being able to continue your habits, being able to manage your stress, being able to get adequate protein, being able to get adequate sleep. So measurables around this. Sleep 7 to 9 hours a night as best you can. Again, you don't have full control over that. So focus on the 3 hours leading up to bed. So 3 hours before bed, 2 hours before bed, 1 hour before bed. Have checkpoints. I stop looking at screens. I stop working. I stop having intense conversations. I'm making those things up. You can pick whatever works best for you. I stop looking at screens. I stop eating food. I stop drinking fluids. Whatever fits your life. Then protein intake. Shoot for a gram of protein per pound. It's the easiest number. It's also overshooting it. You don't need that much. You could do 80% of your body weight, but that's harder math for people. So just shoot for a gram per pound and you'll be fine. From a stress standpoint, you don't always have as much control over what's popping up in your life, but how do you manage it? Whether it's spending 2 to 5 minutes per day meditating, journaling, or conversing with others, that's a measurable focal point. And then from a habit continuity or being able to have the continuous habits, just monitor them, measure them. Pick something you're going to use to measure, whether it's a watch, whether it's journaling. Have a clear plan on your habits and measure them. For example, how many hours of sleep did I get last night? I got 8, very intentionally. So cool. Check that box. I haven't actually moved that much today. I've done 10 push-ups. That's it. So I know I'm going to focus on moving for 5 minutes. I'm going to do 2 minutes of jujitsu drills, 3 minutes of shadow boxing. I'm going to move for 5 minutes. I'm going to walk for 20 minutes. I'm going to get 5,000 steps while that time of walking. I'm going to play with my kids and have a dance party for 5 minutes. Those are some examples of, again, the measurable things that we can focus on. Again, for stress as well, same thing, 2 to 5 minutes. If you're not sure what to start with 2 to 5 minutes. And if you can do that 5 out of 7 days, that's a win. That's massive. That's like what we want to shoot for. So I'm going to pause here. I also want to say, I'm going to have citations and a reference list in the blog post that goes with my office hours. If you're watching this live, we always chop up this content and put it into a blog post on our website. So you guys can check if you want to look at the actual references. I'm not just making this stuff up. They're going to come from Lancet Sports Medicine, the Annals of Internal Medicine, Journal of Applied Physiology, Psychoneural Endocrinology, as well as the Journal of Sports Medicine and the American Journal of Preventative Medicine. So that's, and I'll give you specific citations in the blog post. You can see what we're talking about, where it's coming from. And that is pretty much going to do it, y'all. I kind of sped through this one a little bit. I'm also going to try and preserve my voice. The one thing I do want to recap now that we actually have like 10 or 15 minutes is questions. So if you guys have questions, we'll go into the chat. This is just a joke. Yeah, I know. Yeah. So I just love the comments and like engaging with them. Yeah. I know I find it helpful, even if you're joking, to just like play into the topics because someone else might genuinely be like, oh, that's cool. For example, like, hey, how do we get to work without moving? I know you're messing up, but it's actually a good piece of insight. Like, cool, we have other options. It's thought provoking. So now looking at some of the products, we're talking about protein. I love being able to also have 2 cups of protein or 2 cups of coffee, I should say. This is my Christmas theme. And this is one my brother got from Colorado. But we made coffee and then we poured them in cups and now no one's drinking this one. So I got a fresh cup and I don't want to try and make a mess. So I'm going to have 2 cups of coffee here. So that's even a habit for me is coffee and protein in the morning. I find it massively enjoyable and it's a stress management. So I'll wake up within the first hour of waking up. There's usually 3 things I do. 1, drink 16 ounces of non-coffee oriented fluids, whether it's my diet Snapple here, usually it's water or seltzer. 2, make my coffee and have protein with it. And 3 is go through my journaling and meditation routine. So I'll go through my daily Stoic journal, use the prompt, which today's prompt was, what bad assumptions can I cast out? That lazy, not working. So what I'm putting in right now, and this is what I find helpful. Sometimes I find helpful literally to journal live is like the thought that I'm lazy if I'm not working out and pushing with my intensity every day, which is just not true. Is being able to preserve a habit is letting my body rest, which I have a hard time with. So that's my point of my foundational habits is how I spend the first hour of waking up. That's an anchor point in my day. No matter where I am in the world and no matter what I'm doing, I can at least 80% of the time have consistency knowing that I'm going to journal when I first wake up in the morning within an hour, have coffee, add whatever protein I have access to, Premier Protein, Pure Protein, Quest Nutrition Protein, whatever it is, I'm going to have that. And I'm going to be meditating, whether it's using the Abide app, being able to do some prayer, or just in my mind sitting in quiet. I'm going to be doing that every morning consistently. So being able to have those foundational habits, and these are some of the tools I use for that. I also like having my planner. Like this morning, I like waking up and being able to say, okay, today's Sunday. I set out to meditate, to journal, to pray. I did all those things already. I knocked out my power hour really strong. We had the office hours set up. Boom, I already set up the office hours. After the office hours, I'm going to do a recap and send these notes to my one of my team members that helped set up the blog for me. I can't check that off yet because I haven't done it yet. But going through like, cool, I know that's what I got to do. Did the office hours. We're going to leave for dinner. We're going to go hang out with my cousins. So it's just helping me wrap my mind around, help almost with like organizing my thoughts. And I find that impactful from a stress management standpoint. The other thing I also enjoy, and I've been setting goals around lately, is not only I like Audible and listening to books, but lately I've been enjoying reading again and going back to at least 5 to 10 pages per day. And shout out to my homie Matt Stone. He's a buddy of mine, also a client and just a great actually author. He's going to come on the podcast at some point. I'm finishing up the Spelling Bee Champ. He's also got 2 other books, and he actually just dropped another one on Kindle that I have here. Humanity's Divide, and this is a fictional one. The pigs are starving. I'm really pumped. This one I'm actually giving to my brother because I know he's going to like this one. But I'm going to go through. We're going to have Matt on, talk about his books, talk about a variety of things. He's got a crazy story, like most of us do. But my point is that I find helpful with stress as well. And if like, all right, my mind is wanting to exercise because I have all this energy, I find reading is impactful. And being able to read instead of watching TV. That's something I've learned. Instead of removing things from our lives, again, add things, adding and reading. Another piece to highlight, I have my lozenges. I've got my honey lozenges. I think it's Wetherspoon, if I'm saying it right. The lemon and the honey. And then I have my Sambuca, if I'm saying it. Sambucas. I almost want to say like Zambuca, but that's not. And these are just lozenges to help. It's got elderberry in one, got honey in the other. Natural, organic, good quality stuff. Just these are some baseline things I've been traveling with to help with my throat and feeling better. And then also I have my magnesium powder sticks. I like to throw these things in water. Again, you can do whatever. Really, this is a citrus flavor, quite nice. It's Nothing to write home about as far as like, oh man, you're gonna get addicted to it, like flavor wise, but it's nothing horrible. It's okay. And in general, the magnesium is why I do it. We got some L-theanine, and actually, that's all I pay attention to. But it has B6 as well. So, but the L-theanine and the magnesium, that's why I'm doing it. It's impactful. It's nothing crazy. It's not like you're gonna pass out from it. I find melatonin is way more impactful. And I've got some melatonin gummies, immune system gummies, and my multivitamin mushroom pack gummies as well. So again, I'm getting my bases covered, even though I'm still intentionally eating lots of vegetables, eating lots of protein. And speaking of which, I got like my protein from Pure Protein and Premier Protein here. Again, these aren't even sponsored brands. These are just ones that I use. Find it impactful. I've got my band set as well, so that when I'm moving, if I want some resistance, whether it's for mobility, whether it's for light activation or resistance training, where it's not super intense. And then when I'm feeling 100%, ideally before I go back home, I'll get in at least one good workout. And if not, that's okay. Learning to like surrender to that kind of component. But more or less. And then lastly, like we have this nice cozy. This is actually Kufandi, a sponsor of mine in the past. That they're not like even sponsoring this, but I just like their stuff. And this is actually a cozy kind of gym workout. I'll be honest with you guys, if they didn't send this to me, I probably wouldn't have picked it because the ruffles, I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. But it actually is awesome. I really like this shirt, especially going to the gym. I feel like it fits really well. And yeah, I think I could even go from the cool thing I found with Kufandi, some other stuff. I can go from like working out and like jump on a call like this, then you wouldn't be the wiser, you know? So I appreciate that versatility, and we're actually going to go out to dinner. I'm just looking around to see what else I've got. If I missed anything, I covered the supplement side, talked about the books, and that's pretty much it. I'm honestly, the rest of the trip, I'm not going to be back home until Thursday. The rest of the trip, I'm probably not going to live stream. I might be doing some pop-ups as far as like some body doubling sessions, some workout, maybe some meal prep. More than likely not, because I want to preserve my voice. And other than that, it's going to do it, y'all. I'm going to go tag in with family, go get ready to see my other family, and enjoy this trip. But I appreciate everyone. Cheers, y'all. Good to see you, everyone. And no, I'll be back for office hours for Sunday. We're playing with different times. It's either going to be like early in the morning or in the evening time. Just we're going to dinner. Normally, I would do it at 5:15. Or 5:45. I found that times well for everyone. We're actually going to dinner at 5 o'clock today, so I didn't do it then. But that's pretty much it. I'm going to go get changed. I might even like shave, get cleaned up, get my congestion, and I'll see y'all in the next one. There you go. Appreciate you guys. Bye.